Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yamanobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Nina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaisnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So 18, text 8. It's on page 786 in the big one. Dukkha nityeva yat karma kaya klesha bhayatyajat sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga palam labet. Translation. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear is said to be in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Text 9. Karya nityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyakta palam chaiva satyaga satviko mataha. Translation. But he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness, O Arjuna. Text 10. Nadvestya kushalam karma kushale nanusajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi china sankshaya. Translation. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness, who neither hate inauspicious work, nor are attached to auspicious work, have no doubts about work. Text 11. Nahi deha brita shakyam tyaktum karmanyasheshataha yastu karma pala tyagi satyagitya vadiyade. Translation. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. Therefore, it is said that he who renounces the fruits of action is one who has truly renounced. Text 12. Anishta mishta mishram cha trividam karmana palam bhavatyatginam pretya natu sanyasinam kuchit. Translation. For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such results to suffer or enjoy. Text 13 through 14. Panchayatani mahabaho karanani nibodhame sankye kritante proktani siddhaye sarva karmanam adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha pritag vidham Vividascha pritak cheshta dhaivam chaivatra panchamam. Translation. Almighty armed Arjuna, learn from me of the 5 factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. These are declared in Sankhya philosophy to be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. Text 5. Sharira van manobhiryat karma prarabhate naraha nyayam va viparitam va panchayate tasya hetavaha. Translation. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Text 16. Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuyaha pashyatya krita buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmatanti. Translation. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Text 17. Yasya naham krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hadvapi saima lokan nahanti na navidyate. Translation. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, is not the slayer, nor is he bound by his actions. Last text, text 18. Jnanam gyayam parigyata trividha karma chodana karanam karma karteti trividha karma sangraha. Translation. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the 3 factors which motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer comprise the 3-fold basis of action. Okay, back to text 8. Translation. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear is said to be in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Purport. One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. Even if a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the results of renunciation. We'd love to hear any comments from Maharaj, if Maharaj is online. That'll be great. Yeah, so very early in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna instructs Arjuna, Matra sparshastu kunteya sitoshna sukadukada agama paino nityas tangstatiksha subharata. So this non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. Therefore, one should learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. This is one of the initial instructions that Krishna gives to Arjuna. Titiksha. This quality is the quality of the devotee, of the sadhu. It means to tolerate. One is able to tolerate. And so, austerity of the body in the mode of goodness means to worship the Lord. The brahmanas, the spiritual master, and one's mother and father, like that, those who are worshipable. And to do so, one requires that tolerance because these activities are their austerities. So we have to cultivate these qualities. Brahma karma svabhavajam. This is the nature of the Brahmana. Titikshava is one of them. Samadhamma titiksha. Jnanam vijnanam. Knowledge. So equanimity, tolerance, knowledge. Brahma karma svabhavajam. So these are qualities of the Brahmana that we're trying to cultivate. Through purifying, through purification, practicing these austerities, performing these austerities that we're doing, practicing these things, and we're getting results. From this devotional service, practicing devotional service comes knowledge. With that knowledge we're able to cultivate these qualities. Krishna gives us the intelligence, and with that intelligence we can see, okay, what do I need? What kind of qualities do I need to make further progress? And then we work on them. We check those influences which are impeding our progress with our intelligence, and we actively apply ourselves to, acting in a way which we can identify with these qualities, So let me practice. I'm not humble. Let me practice humility. Let me try to learn what that is from the devotees, and let me practice it. I'm not very tolerant, but let me practice it. Let me put it into practice. Let me understand what is actually those factors, those qualities that I have which are killing the good ones, and let me try to diminish those. But so that was one initial instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna about tolerance. One must tolerate these things. This happiness and distress which arises from mental concoction, from the modes from the senses, simply based off of, the modes of nature and the network of senses that I've acquired and the mind I've acquired, combination of these different things, it's not real. It's very temporary. It's not permanent, and it's constantly changing. In a different life, I've had a different set of senses and a different idea of what was pleasurable and what was displeasurable. And in the next life, I will have a different one too. Different set of senses, a different idea of what's pleasurable and not pleasurable. It's all relative. Like right now, I'm identifying with this body, and so I think, I'm American, yeah, that's amazing, I love America, and I hate those enemies of America. But then, in my next life, because Krishna says, whatever state of consciousness, whatever we think of at the time of death, that we will attain without fail, I could be thinking about, I don't know, I hate those communists or whatever, those Chinese, and at the time of death I'm thinking, and then I take birth in China, and then when I'm in that body, I'm thinking, I hate those Americans. It's so stupid, going on and on and on and on and on like that, It's really such a useless way to live one's life, especially considering that we're eternal beings, we don't have to do that. We can rise above that. Anyway, so we tolerate that, and tolerate this nature that I've got here, this set of senses that are impelling me to act a certain way, this mind. I just go on tolerating all of that. It's not actually me, It's constantly changing. Even in this life, in this body, these things have constantly changed. Once I had a taste for enjoying this kind of thing, and then I suddenly hated that and I got something else, These things are constantly changing. But we want to come to that eternal, permanent situation, the spiritual situation. The devotional service is the taste is always ever increasing. Anandam buddhi vardhanam. So therefore it's satisfying to the self. Yayati suprasidati. It's actually satisfying to the self. So, just by hearing about devotional service, we can develop the intelligence that we need, in order to realize these things and to be successful in life. So why not? And then Then earlier as well in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna talks about karma yoga. So here we can see Prabhupada in the purport is very nicely saying to us that we shouldn't, if one is earning money, he shouldn't give this up out of fear. He can simply engage in Krishna's service, Or he should see that there are certain activities that he can perform which are beneficial for his devotional life as well. And out of fear of maybe some bodily consideration, he shouldn't stray away from those things which are beneficial for his long-term situation, his actual situation. There's going to be some sacrifices there. In order to pursue the long-term vision, which is ultimately the most beneficial thing for us, we will have to give up these temporary frivolous activities that we find ourselves in, And out of fear of I don't want to give this thing up, this insignificant thing, to pursue that thing which is actually the real thing. Out of that fear, we should be able to annihilate that. We can annihilate that with the instructions from the spiritual master. This knowledge that we're getting, we're able to slash all of that, to destroy that fear, so that we can actually make progress. One thing I'm thinking of is a simple example. Prabhupada, I don't remember exactly where this is, or where I read it, but how it says that a saintly person, even in the month of Magh, he takes a cold shower because it's beneficial for his spiritual life. So we undergo some austerities, the austerities which are beneficial for our spiritual life, and whatever considerations the mind is there, that are there from the mind, we can look at it and understand it. Is this reasonable? Not really. It's not really beneficial for me, So give it up. So we understand that kind of renunciation, which is out of fear, some kind of material thing, I don't want to wake up early because I'm worried that if I don't get my beauty rest, then something else, whatever, but it's bogus. You're going to lose the body anyways. Body's going to get old anyways. You can't check that. No matter how much you sleep, you won't be able to check that. You'll get kicked out anyways, And if you're concerned about beauty rest, then why not work towards attaining that spiritual situation in which one has an eternal form, an eternal beautiful form, so whatever doubts we're having, whatever things are there, we can check them with this knowledge. There's nothing that there's no argument that we can come up with that can't be slashed. Trying, you can keep trying, but there's really nothing. So ultimately we're being guided very nicely towards surrender. Surrendering to Krishna, which is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. And this knowledge is guiding us there, so it's wonderful. And the devotee who is disseminating this knowledge into the world is such a wonderful friend. He's the most, magnanimous friend to all living entities, because he's helping them make that journey towards the goal of life, the conclusion of life. So how lucky are we to be able to take part in his mission, It's very nice, and we're being trained up how to actually ourselves go out and also do the talking on behalf of the devotees and of the Lord. Be a mouthpiece for the Lord, and the devotees. That's very nice, And that is the highest form of yoga, What better way to connect with Krishna than to be a mouthpiece for him? There's no more intimate thing that we can do than go out and preach this message. First we come and surrender our ears, surrender our intelligence, and then we go out and we become the Lord's mouthpiece, and then that's wonderful. We experience great bliss from that, and other living entities who are receptive to that, they also experience great bliss. And so the Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam, that this ocean of transcendental knowledge of bliss is ever expanding. And to be able to take part in that there's nothing better than that. No job that we could get in the material world, no education that we could get in the material world can accomplish that. This is it. So this is wonderful opportunity that we have. We can see the next text 9, translation. But he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness. Purport. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna, and when he gives up the results for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. Yeah, this is totally nice because all of that energy, under this illusion, we're thinking, okay, here I am in this country, here I am in this state, here I am in this particular county, here I am in this particular factory, and this factory is owned by this thing and that whatever, all these different designations and illusory connections that we're making. But actually all of it belongs to Krishna. It's all Krishna's energy. Whatever work is being done there ultimately has to be performed for the Lord's satisfaction. Anyways, it's all his energy. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sridam sarvabhutanam gyatam mam shantim richati. So that one who knows that, he attains peace of mind, and with that peace of mind we can actually perform our prescribed duties with that particular detached mentality. Otherwise, if we don't know that, then there's no question of us performing with such a mentality. So a man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. Simply works for Krishna. So we have to know that because it's Krishna's factory. Krishna owns that. Krishna owns everything. It's all his energy. It's meant for his satisfaction and his enjoyment. And if one is working in that consciousness, then that's Krishna conscious. That's devotional service. And it's nice because we want that factory for Krishna's pleasure. It's not that we say, no factories or nothing. No, we want that for Krishna. It's valuable. It's his energy. There's nothing to reject. There's nothing to renounce. It all belongs to him. It's all for his pleasure. So we want that factory. We want those things, but we want to use it for Krishna. And we also probably understand that there's a better way to go about it, for increasing Krishna's satisfaction. Krishna is not satisfied with destroying the lives of other living entities for some useless sense enjoyment. There's a more intelligent way to go about these things. But either way, the principle there is that we want to engage Krishna's energy in his service, So another thing is that we go out and we'll preach, and who knows, we might just meet somebody who works at such a factory, and he becomes induced to take up this process, and just by his association, the other workers of the factory, they become benefited as well, and like that the whole chain reaction is going. So just by going out and preaching, we're doing the most that we could do. We'll see in some time. It'll just domino effect, the whole thing. and then it'll be wonderful. All right, we can check out text. Let's see, text 10. Translation: those who are situated in the mode of goodness, who neither hate inauspicious work nor are attached to auspicious work, have no doubts about work. Purport: it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that one can never give up work at any time. Therefore, he who works for Krishna and does not enjoy the fruit of results, who offers everything to Krishna, is actually a renouncer. There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here to renounce the fruits of work, and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. Let's see text 11. Translation: it is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. Therefore, it is said that he who renounces the fruits of action is one who has truly renounced. Purport: a person in Krishna consciousness acting in knowledge of his relationship with Krishna is always liberated. Therefore, he does not have to enjoy or suffer the results of his acts after birth. So this is yukta vairagya. This is real renunciation. Real renunciation means to engage things in Krishna's service. It doesn't mean to just let things go, waste things, throw things away. That's also nice. If they give up that factory job to come live at the temple and engage in preaching full-time service, that's wonderful. That can be done as well. Many devotees have done that. In fact, that's nothing better than that. But still, one has a certain nature. He's got this acquired nature, and so one has to act according to that nature, right? So we can act for Krishna's pleasure. And by doing so, one is liberated. One doesn't have to actually suffer the results of his activities because he's engaged in devotional service. So text 12. Translation: for one who has not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such results to suffer or enjoy. A person in Krishna consciousness or in the mode of goodness does not hate anyone or anything which troubles his body. He does not work in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. Such a person situated in transcendence should be understood to be most intelligent and beyond all doubts in his activities. So the devotee who's engaged in Krishna service is sure to attain that topmost spiritual abode, and once he does, he doesn't have to come back. He doesn't have to come back. So that's the intelligent position. Not to stay here and be repeatedly kicked out of one situation after another, evicted again and again and again, suffering, wanting, hankering for some kind of permanent shelter. Intelligent position is to actually go back to Godhead, that eternal abode. One doesn't have to come back. One won't get kicked out from that situation. It's an eternal situation. That's what we're looking for. Even so many like Darwinists or survival of the fittest, these kinds of evolutionists and biologists, they understand that the driving force for living entities is to try to, outrun his predators, or to try to prolong his existence in the material world by struggling to find the mate and take care of his kin, trying to sustain his existence in the material world. But this is foolish. In the human form of life, we don't actually have to suffer like that, because we can see this isn't the way to do it. Not the way to do it, Whatever kind of thing I create here in this world, it's gone. Everything we see here in this material world is gone. And some will just be gone, So engaging in these activities is just a waste of time. The human form of life I've got now, so let me use it to come to that eternal situation that I'm looking for. All living entities are actually looking for that. In the animal body, all that, they're looking for this situation. Of course, don't know it. But human form of life is meant for that. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, to inquire about spiritual life. What is Brahman? Brahman is that eternal situation that we're looking for, to be situated there. And then we'll be beyond, Nashochatina Kankshati, beyond all that suffering, hankering, lamentation. So we can rest assured that this is the intelligent position to listen to Krishna. He says again and again, Brahma Bhuvanal Loka, that from the topmost planet and the bottom planet, all of it, sources of misery, temporary places, Dukhalayam Shashvatam. This material world is a temporary place full of misery. It's not actually satisfying to us. So we can rest assured that what we're doing is the best thing that we could be doing. It's the intelligent position, so that's very nice. Yes, Prabhu?
These threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, are these functions of the modes of material nature? Is this correlated? Would one say that passion is like a mix of goodness and ignorance? Or is this off base?
Yeah, let's see here. The threefold fruits of action. Trividam karmana palam. So you're asking if these are correlated to the modes of nature. It certainly seems that way. Desirable, a mode of goodness; undesirable, a mode of ignorance; and mixed passion. But where Krishna says that, he might, there might be some connection. Yes, Prabhuji?
You want to work on it?
No, you can go for it. Yeah.
So I think we just heard about this. The result of passionate work is always misery, or something like that. So there is a relation. It's also discussed in the third chapter that there's three types of action. There's karma, there's vikarma, and there's akarma. So specifically this verse, these threefold fruits are referring to like karma and vikarma. So in this material world, we're always acting according to mixed modes. If we're in pure sattva, then it's called akarma, which is being discussed. Like, as you mentioned, if we are acting in Krishna consciousness, specifically text 11 just said that. Krishna himself said, So that means to be in Shuddha Sattva state. He renounces the fruit of action. So that means he's in goodness, right? So if you're in, what's amazing, what's interesting is that the fruit comes, there may be a fruit of action even if, there's a result of action even if you renounce from it. So that's what's being talked about, that the three things happen, like there's results to our activities, but when we're in Krishna consciousness, then we're not forced to suffer past this body. Like, they don't happen after death. But basically, these threefold fruits means that this is also discussed in the Nectar of Instruction, how there's the seed, when we perform sinful activities, then there's like a sinful desire seed that's sown in the heart. And it has different stages of maturity. And and Prabhupada discusses there in the purport that when it's become mature, those are when the sinful desire seed, it's like called like a kuta or something like that. Those sinful activities for which we are suffering right now are in the mature stage. But there's others that are coming. So this is discussing that. And what does that mean? That means that we are performing activities which are in the modes of passion and ignorance. And it was discussed earlier in the Bhagavad Gita that the person who's in the mode of goodness, he gets conditioned by a sense of happiness because more or less he's free from sin. Right? So those are just some thoughts on the topic to kind of churn it up.
Very nice. Answers the question. Yeah, nice verse though. Sarva kama kama va moksha karma vidadiyat tivrena bhakti yogena something purusham vajeta kim. Anyways, but whether one has all desires or no desires, engage in devotional service to the Lord. Let's see. Which one was I on? Text 12? Was that what I just read? Or yeah, that was one I just read. Alright, so let's go on. Continue. Translation. Almighty armed Arjuna, learn from me of the 5 factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. These are declared in Sankhya philosophy to be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. A question may be raised that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that the person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reactions of work? The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. He says that there are 5 causes for all activities, and for success in all activity, and one should know, was that right? He says that there are 5 causes for all activities, and for success in all activity, and one should know these 5 causes. Sankhya means the stock of knowledge, and Vedanta is the final stock of knowledge accepted by all leading acharyas. Even Shankara accepts Vedanta Sutra as such. Therefore, such authority should be consulted. The ultimate will is invested in the Supersoul, as it is stated in the Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi, He is engaging everyone in certain activities. Acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction, either in this life or in the life after death. The instruments of action are the senses, and by senses the soul acts in various ways. And for each and every action there is a different endeavor, but all one's activities depend on the will of the Supersoul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness, under the direction of the Supersoul, situated within the heart, is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the Supreme Will, the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is nice. So, in various other places in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna instructs how we can attain the nature which is like his. You know, Janma karma chame divyam. Evam yoviti tattva jakta deham punarjanma naiti mamiti sarajana. You know, that when one understands the nature of his activities, by that understanding we also attain to that nature, transcendental nature. You know, so here specifically, it's pretty nice that Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sadi Vishto Mata Smitir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So he's seated in the hearts of the living entity. From him comes knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness. And so the devotee who's turning towards the Supersoul seated within, who's serving him, devotional service, from that service, that connection comes knowledge. The Supersoul provides the living entity with that knowledge, you know, and by those devotional activities, then we've successfully attained a nature which is similar to Krishna's, being beyond, you know, transcendental, beyond the modes of nature, beyond karma, beyond all these different things in the material world, even beyond time and space and all that. Just like many different examples, Narada Muni, such a devotee who is beyond time and space, like that. Yes, Prabhuji.
So by seeing like Swami and other Swamis and things, so the Super Soul is it says, you said that like the Super Soul, like when someone's realized or something like that, like they've completely surrendered to Krishna and they're letting the Super Soul act through them, and you can see the Super Soul and how it acts. But is there still like the personality of the individual, or is the personality of the Super Soul or Krishna, also working? And so like for example, like if we were to see Swami and see like his personality, is this the personality of the Super Soul, or is this the personality of the individual being influenced by the Super Soul?
Yeah, we always retain our individuality. That, never was there a time when I didn't exist, nor you, nor all these kings, all that. We always retain our individuality. But the pure devotee is always taking guidance from the Super Soul, and he's always acting in accordance with the Shastra as well. He has his individuality, his individual personality, but he's surrendered to Krishna, And so that same Krishna who's speaking the Bhagavad Gita is also the super soul within the heart. And so we have the super soul within the heart who, gives us that knowledge and gives us that intelligence and that guidance. And there's also the Shastra, and there's also the Guru. Well, because the Guru is perfectly in line with the Shastra and the super soul, he also acts as the external manifestation of the super soul. All of the activities that he's conducting are totally in line with what Krishna wants, So his activities are bona fide. But it doesn't just mean that he's possessed by the super soul and he doesn't have his individual personality, right? But that he's using his free will to surrender to Krishna. So it's a loving exchange that he has with Krishna. He's taking that guidance from the super soul within. So, all right, let's continue. We just got a few more moments. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
This is a really cool question, and actually it's really important because nobody wants to lose their identity. Actually, only when we become very fearful or very depressed or frustrated do we want to lose our individuality. But actually, it's completely unnatural. And you can see in the animal species, if you put an ant, if you check his motions, he's going to try to be safe. So every other species is completely natural to maintain one's identity or one's individuality. So only in the human form, Krishna's very kind, and he says, all right, if you want to pretend like that, then I'll see you soon, some other time. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to say is that if the perfect person is losing his identity by becoming a robot to the Lord or something like that, then that's scary, because our whole point is to become, fully qualified Krishna conscious person, right? So it's a good question. And what's really nice is that when we talk about the spiritual master, it becomes Leela. That's actually what it is. It's different. So Prabhu said it's loving exchange. Everything they do is based on serving Krishna. So it's all Leela, actually. This is something that's really important for us to develop for the spiritual master and the disciplic succession, but not for ourselves. And I'm just a conditioned fool, and I'm just in Maya, but whatever he does is Leela. That's important, that there's some inner service to Krishna happening at every moment, like we hear in the morning prayers. And it's different. And if you can see in our ISKCON movement, we're so fortunate. So many representatives of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada are there, and they're not robotic. They're individuals. So it's actually helpful to associate with a family, with a village of this ISKCON family, and then you can see how it's so amazing how Krishna is inspiring them all to serve Him just as He likes to be served, and it's not going to be the same. Now what's interesting is that there is a difference between the internal bhava, the sarup, and how they act as a sadhaka. But like I said, that's also part of the Leela. Just like our acharyas, they're actually serving Krishna in the spiritual world as the assistants of the gopis. Many of them. Means they're young girls, gopis. They're young gopis that serve Radharani, who serves Krishna. But in this material world, they act as acharyas. And it's all exactly according to Krishna's plan. So, anyway, it's a very kind of complex thing. Thank you.
Alright, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.